It is only the middle of September and so much is happening in the entertainment world, from rappers getting exposed to CMA snubs to the Super Bowl announcement to Twitter crash outs. Baby, let's get into it. First of all, hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Cameron St. Clair, and sometimes I just really enjoy sitting on my bedroom floor, yapping it away, talking about all the latest and greatest that's happening in the entertainment world. And like I just said, there is so much happening, so let's get into it. Actually, before I get started, I do want to kind of like talk about my current setup right now. Unfortunately, I broke my camera. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I broke my camera, sadly, and it's not gonna get fixed until I want to say, like, they said potentially 3 weeks from now. They're either gonna try and fix it or replace it. So if the audio is a little wonky, not as good as normal, if the quality's not as good as normal, I'm so sorry. I basically was debating, okay, do I just wait 3 weeks until my camera's fixed, or do I just like hop into it, film on my phone? And I obviously decided to just film on my phone. There's so much that's happening in the world that I really wanted to get into. So here we are, just hopping right into it. First topic is gonna be all about Kendrick and his Super Bowl announcement. On September 8th, Kendrick announced that he's going to be performing for the Super Bowl, and it's gonna be located in New Orleans this year. I feel like the first couple hours, the response was very like excited. The audience was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Like, whoa, he's having a year of his life. Poor Drake, someone checking on Drake, da da da. And then the tone started to shift and people were like, wait, it's happening in New Orleans? Like, why wouldn't you guys offer Lil Wayne a performance? Much to say on that, but before we get into there, I think the most frustrating part about this entire conversation over the last week or so has been, it almost feels like the audience is discrediting Kendrick Lamar and whether or not he should be the one performing at the Super Bowl, period. I thought that was such an interesting take. The same man who won 17 Grammys, the same man who won a Pulitzer Prize award for Damn, which happens to be my favorite rap album by him. The man who quite literally is one of the best, if not, you know what? No, I'll say it. Kendrick Lamar is the best rap performer to ever grace this earth. Yes, male and female rappers. Yes, I'm putting him above all. He is the best performer amongst the rap industry, the hip hop, all together. I really feel like Kendrick is known for bringing art front and center to the stage. He dances, he puts on a full-time show. It's like storytelling being shown while he's performing his music. There's never been a single performance by him where I'm looking around like, oh, this was so boring. Even when he does less on stage, like for example, when I say less, like less production, like the production might not be as big like what he did with Amazon. It was really kind of just like him on this stage, rapping around. There was still, and maybe that was just the production side of like how it was being streamed on Amazon, so like the different angle clips that they saw, and even how he did all West Coast rappers, specifically rappers from California, LA area, perform before he hit the stage. All of that was very much intentional. It still wasn't like some of the other crazy performances he's done, like for the VMAs, BET. I don't know if he's performed at the Grammys. He might have. Let's check. I feel like he has. Oh yes, he did. So the performance that I was thinking about in 2016, when he was like chained up the entire time and everybody were clearly inmates, that was actually at the Grammys. So yes, it wasn't to that exact level, but I feel like we can even potentially have that as our expectation for the Super Bowl. A big stage like the Super Bowl where you have middle of America, hundreds and millions of people watching. Is it hundreds of people? Hold on. Okay, I take that back. There's only 63 million people watching the Super Bowl last year, but you get what I'm saying. Millions of people are going to be watching this, so our expectations can be very high. He will meet those expectations. If not, he will surpass those expectations because he is one of his brands is just being such a great performer. He is an artist. And we want to view Kendrick as an artist altogether. I feel like one of the biggest things that separates him from other rappers is the fact that he knows how to put on a good show. The production, the style, the art, all together. He knows how to tell a story, like I've said, on the stage. I feel like that separates him from like the other rappers of the world. Travis Scott has a good production, but he's not dancing. He's probably jumping up and down. It's not necessarily a same type of storyline versus just like cool visuals that we'll see. Same with like Drake, like it'll be like visuals more than just like an actual story being told on stage. Same with J. Cole, and honestly, probably every other rapper that we can think of, like Jay-Z. Like Jay-Z is not performing. Like he's like a good performer. He knows how to keep the crowd excited, engaged, and happy, and like his set list really speaks to that. But with that being said, Jay-Z isn't having a bunch of dancers behind him. 9 times out of 10, it might just be him on stage. You know what I mean? So I think this is also adding to the fact that like Kendrick Lamar is the first rapper, period, who will be headlining a Super Bowl ever. Because if I'm not mistaken, 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 years ago, because last year was Usher, the year before that was Rihanna. 2 years ago, it was Dr. Dre who was headlining, and he brought out a bunch of people that he used to collaborate with, right? So it wasn't a specific, like a rapper, like headlining the Super Bowl. And that's probably because most of them just jump up and down. Most of them don't actually put on a full-on performance that will be engaging and worth watching for 15 minutes straight. Now let's get into the Lil Wayne conversation and everyone bringing him into the mix. I would love to know what his initial thoughts were when he saw Kendrick Lamar was headlining. I always think about this with celebrities, like, do they wait until they see like public's perception on certain things? Like, I wonder if Lil Wayne, when he saw that Kendrick was headlining, did he actually feel snubbed right away? Was his initial reaction, dang, like, why not me? Or did he start saying, why not me, once he saw everybody else was saying, why not him? Because never in the history before, unless, hey, I've also only been gracing this earth for 20 something years, but to my knowledge, there has never been a time where somebody has thought, oh my gosh, I am owed a Super Bowl performance. Because this is in my hometown, or because of X, Y, and Z, I deserve to be on that Super Bowl stage. I've never seen someone feel so entitled to have the headlining role opportunity until now. I was waiting to speak on this because, well, one, obviously my camera was broken, so I couldn't have just jumped right in and talk about this with you guys. But two, I really wanted to see his statement. I wanted to see like how he was feeling, because I felt like a lot of people were speaking on his behalf. And then when he said himself that he felt like he was snubbed and didn't even like congratulate Kendrick or really address the fact that like this is somebody who is receiving a really cool opportunity, somebody who didn't do anything directly to you. Granted, he has had this legendary beef with somebody that was signed to you once in a blue moon, or someone that you've like discovered and you put on the map. I can understand that loyalty. With that being said, I'm kind of like, I was surprised by his response and that he was so hurt by it. And again, just feeling like he was owed something that I just didn't know anybody necessarily ever could feel so entitled to do something like this. I also don't know where this whole thought process of people thinking that just because you're from a certain city, that means that you're supposed to be performing in that city. I kind of blame the whole Dr. Dre thing. Honestly, I feel like once that happened, it like kind of led everybody else to believe, oh, is this going to be the new trend now? Like when it's in my city, then therefore I'm going to be able to perform on that stage. When Rihanna performed, she wasn't from, I don't even know what city that was. Let's start there. Where was the Super Bowl when Rihanna performed? Arizona. Rihanna is not from freaking Arizona. She's from Barbados. 1, 2. Does she even have property in Arizona? She probably does. I don't know. Not the point. The point is, like, she's not from there. The Usher thing, I do kind of understand. Like, he had just finished up his Las Vegas residency, so it kind of did, like, make sense, if you will. But he didn't perform when it was happening in Atlanta. I kind of wish somebody in, like, Lil Wayne's camp just stopped him from going live or didn't encourage it. Because at a certain point, I do feel like we have to be a little bit serious with ourselves. Yes, he has the catalog to make a performance, and yes, that would be really fun, but we also know that if we leveled up his performing style versus Kendrick Lamar's performing style, and we just did a straight comparison, ignoring all historical context, ignoring all, like, when I say historical context, I mean like upbringings, where are they from, what's been happening in the past year or two. Like literally Drake Kendrick beef aside, who would still be the better choice? If like this Drake and Kendrick beef never happened and we're having Kendrick and Lil Wayne go toe to toe between, like, we could say yes, catalog, but also just being able to put on a good show that would be entertaining for middle America and also just America in general for 15 minutes straight, who would you rather? In the midst of all the like Twitter back and forth, people crashing out on Twitter, yes, I'm talking about Nicki. I love Nicki. Yes, I love that woman. I think she's such a great rapper, but I swear every time she hits Twitter, I'm like, ugh. Like, it's like her legacy crumbles a little bit more. And that's just being real. Like, those freaking Twitter rants, I'm like, somebody take her phone now, please. Like, someone on her team, grab that phone, delete those freaking tweets, please. Like, you don't have to put all your thoughts out there. I think this is also kind of what I love about celebrities like Beyonce, who just, like, stays behind closed doors. I love the mystery of it. I love wishing that I was able to be a fly on the wall during all of this Twitter rants and stuff like that, and just try and guess what she's thinking. Not everything needs to go on social media, and this is coming from someone who posts everything on social media. You don't have to crash out every time you disagree with something that's happening. You're sitting there, and maybe she even feels that way because she feels like Young Money as a whole was snubbed, and so therefore she thinks like, oh, if Wayne was up on that stage, I know he would have brought me out and I get my like Super Bowl moment. Although I believe she's been on the stage in Super Bowl before. Or like maybe I don't really know what she was thinking, but I do think some people need to be a little bit more realistic and like recognize like not only was this, yes, a business decision. We all know that. Like you almost can't separate what's been happening in hip hop with like the rap beef and stuff like that. So the timing just makes more sense. But I still stand by this statement that even if this rap battle didn't happen, this rap beef didn't happen, they were still like friends, or we just didn't know they hated each other this much, he would have still absolutely been a great pick for a performance just because of who he is as an artist. He as in Kendrick. I don't think we could say the same thing about Lil Wayne. Yes, we love like his music, and yes, he is a great artist. With that being said, he doesn't perform well. People were showing videos of his performances from 13 years ago. We can't compare Lil Wayne today to Lil Wayne 13 years ago, sadly. Especially for something that's like 15 minutes nonstop on a stage, and then everyone keeps saying, oh, he just did Rolling Loud. I want you to sit and really think about that. We're really comparing Super Bowl to Rolling Loud. So obviously Kendrick's not gonna address any of it. With that said, on 9/11, he dropped a new single called Watch the Party Die, or The Party is Dead, Kill the Party. Honestly, I don't think there's an actual official title for this song, but I thought it was really interesting. Some people were like, oh, I thought you said no round twos, just assuming that every song he drops is gonna be in response to Drake or have to do with Drake. This had nothing to do with Drake. Obviously, when he talks about the party, he's not talking about a political party, but he's talking about hip hop in general and just like the industry. One of my favorite bars from this song was, the radio personality pushing propaganda for salary. I immediately thought of two people, Academics and Mal. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I love Rory and Mal, I love their podcast, but if anybody was listening to their podcast during like the peak of the beef, and just like how subjective he was to it, even to this day, how he talks about they not like us and how defensive he gets over it, and how disgusted he is that Kendrick would ever call Drake a pedophile, because just because you date an 18-year-old and you're 30-something doesn't make you a pedophile. We're not gonna get into that. We're not gonna get into that. I do think, and maybe this isn't on purpose, maybe this is just like the people that you're around. Naturally, if you're friends with someone, and this is even like how it kind of can get messy in the podcast world, in the media and entertainment, when you're talking about like hot topics and what's happening in the industry, it can be really tough to talk about your friends, the people that you have on speed dial. I don't think Drake and Mal have each other on speed dial, but the people that you spend time around, you talk to them on a regular basis, you're literally like, you're hanging around these people. Mal obviously always says like, Drake isn't like feeding information for me to like say on the pod, but naturally you're gonna say those things, especially if you're having conversations. So for example, when they're talking about Kendrick being selected for the Super Bowl, and Mal drops the fact that Drake has been offered the Super Bowl 4 times. I feel like it's like those subtle things where like, although that's true, it's like the timing, and it's like, okay, are you trying to find a way for this to be like a defending moment? Or even the narrative that Drake doesn't really care that Kendrick was selected for the Super Bowl, and that he doesn't really care about the whole Kendrick and Drake beef. Like, that's something that Lil Yachty has also said. Academics, I believe, has even mentioned that. And people are like, oh, like, people as in the folks on Drake's side, the friends of his, like, he's not feeding us this stuff, he's not telling us to say these things, but you guys are all saying the same thing. And I understand that some people are like, oh, but like, wouldn't that be true? Like, if everybody's saying the same thing, wouldn't it be true? Not necessarily, if that's the message that Drake is trying to push. Like, maybe in front of like his homeboys, he's like, oh yeah, like, I don't really care what people have to say, like, I'm just chilling, I'm vibing, whatever, like, life's life, I'm going to Turks. Heard. But like, that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. That could just be what you're presenting to everybody, and then deep down inside you're pissed. I just refuse to believe somebody like Drake, who quite literally cannot stop making music about Rihanna and Serena Williams, somebody who made music about 19-year-old Georgia Smith breaking his heart when he was 35. A 19-year-old broke your heart when you were 35, and and you made music about her. Somebody who is like so butthurt over women is not even bothered a little bit about this rap beef, especially extending this long, because I don't even think that Drake himself believed that it would have such an impact on his career. And even Mal, like, he'll say things like, oh, it has had an impact on his career? Absolutely. Even subconsciously. Maybe because of the music that he recently was dropping, like the 100 gig stuff and few other singles that he dropped, it just didn't get a lot of traction. People aren't talking about it. People were like, oh, like, here we go, and they just weren't really listening to it. I don't even think it made top 100. Everyone this entire summer has been singing about a song that tells you you're not for the culture. Boy, the song is more than just calling him a pedophile. It's also telling him you are not what the culture wants. And the culture is rapping that, dancing to it. DJs are making remixes to it. And it's charting, and it's been on the charts since it dropped. So you're telling me that doesn't even make him twitch a little bit? It was also suggested that he was dissing Mace and Cameron in that song because he said, street the corporate guys, the rappers that report the lies. And those were other two people that were like heavily on Drake's side during the rap beef. Now, do I think that Kendrick is saying that people cannot have their own opinions and that no one can go against him? No, I don't think so. But I do think he's calling out these people who own these media platforms, or who are like the faces of these big media platforms, who is like purposely being subjective and biased to a certain person in a rap beef, you know? People are also wondering, me specifically, I'm wondering, when is this album gonna drop? Is it gonna drop before the Super Bowl or after the Super Bowl? We know Usher, he did his big performance, and then I believe his album drops like right afterwards. I'm hoping before, and I wonder if it'll be enough time for people to like know the music before the performance happens, because we saw like how people were literally rapping along all of those diss songs before the Amazon performance. I think that would be really cool. I'm also wondering what this album is gonna look like. I hope it doesn't include Not Like Us, because then I feel like people are gonna just naturally discredit the numbers. Like, we already know this album is gonna get a ton of traction, a ton of listens, a ton of streams. We know it's gonna chart. We know that, point blank period. I believe the song that he just dropped last week already has like 30 million views on Instagram. The last time I checked, it was 30 million. That's insane. People are going to be tuned in, and some people are going to be like, oh, like, people are just tuned in to see if he's going to mention Drake. Again, they always want to just discredit his work and act like he's not who he freaking is. I hope, therefore, he does not include They Not Like Us, because we already know that some artists will put like their biggest single out that they might have created like a year ago on that album, because they know that album will increase in numbers and streams, but really it's just people listening to that one's hot single Hopefully he doesn't do something like that. I want there to be not a single opportunity for anyone to tie Drake to how this album is gonna chart. I just want people to give Kendrick his flowers that he deserves, and for people to stop forgetting what kind of rapper he is and how successful he is. The man has 17 Grammys. And I know Grammys aren't everything, but they are something. It is something to be said for the awards that he has won. It is something to be said for how many number ones he's had, or like how well his albums have performed. It's something to be said about that. And again, for some whatever reason, because there's so many Drake fans, everyone wants to now discredit him and act like he's not who he is. Now moving on to another artist who is just constantly being discredited and acting like we don't know how good of an artist somebody is, their range, never acknowledging it, always trying to put her in a box. Beyonce. The CMAs did not give Beyonce a single nomination for her country album, Cowboy Carter. Part of me is like, are we surprised? I think I'm surprised because I was like, oh, maybe she won't win the big awards, but there's no way they wouldn't at least nominate her. Maybe she won't perform, but they're definitely gonna acknowledge her. So some people are like, I think there's multiple ways to like look at this. I feel like the CMA still feels some type of way about her after she brought them Doechii chicks out. Because if you guys know, back in 2003, the Doechii chicks said some things calling out former President Bush for all of this stuff that was happening with the Iraq war. And essentially they were blacklisted from the country music industry. And they were not very welcoming when they performed with Beyonce. And I think it was a mix of racism and also they just don't like the Doechii chicks. So this was like another opportunity, in my opinion, to almost like humble Beyonce, if you will, and just now welcome her into a genre, a category that she so well deserves. I mean, even when she announced that she was gonna be making a country album, I feel like everybody was like, oh, but you're a pop star. It's so funny because it reminds me of Kanye and how Kanye used to always complain about being referenced as a rapper. He felt like being referenced as a rapper was just like somebody calling him the N-word. Like, he's an artist, period. Like, stop pigeonholing him, stop putting him into a specific box, a category, a genre, when he just makes music, period, right? I think a lot of people try to do that with Beyonce. They call her a pop singer, but she also makes R&B. She also has made rock songs. She also has clearly made country before and even had country legends on this album, and to not even acknowledge it is not only distasteful but also straight disrespectful. I just saw this Billboard Award article, and we already knew that she was the first Black woman to hit #1 on the charts for having a country album. There's roughly 6,600 voting members, and each receive a write-in ballot to list their choices. So each member can make one nomination per award category. Therefore, Beyonce's label or team did not need to submit her to be eligible. The exception is the Single of the Year category, which is pre-populated drop-down. Oh my gosh. I hate when pop-up ads happen, which is a pre-populated drop-down list of all qualifying top 10 singles from the country charts noted in the criteria, and I can only assume she was listed in that. The write-in ballots are tabulated, and the top 20 vote recipients in each category end up on the second ballot, with the exception of the Entertainer of the Year, which consists of the top 15 vote recipients. Additionally, all second ballot candidates are reviewed by CMA record label representatives in the CMA Awards and Recognition Committee to ensure that they are meeting the criteria for each award. The award criteria is based on release dates, chart activity, and consumption peaks that occurred during the eligibility period, July 1st, 2023 and June 30th, 2024. The second ballot is sent to the CMA voters, and each member can vote for up to 5 candidates in each category. CMA does not reveal the write-in ballot nominations or confirm whether any specific artist or work appeared on the second ballot. Though Billboard has not yet viewed a full second round ballot, Billboard viewed a screenshot for the second ballot for Song of the Year that does not include Texas Hold'em. Well, there we have it, people. A lot of people were trying to say, oh, this isn't necessarily about race. This is just strictly about somebody not falling into a certain category. I don't think that's fair when someone like Post Malone received 4 nominations. 4 nominations. Somebody who was originally a rapper. He was a hip hop artist. That's how he came out to be. You could say he does primarily pop, whatever you want to say. He was never country, ever country. He just recently started to tap into this genre, and you guys are welcoming him with open arms, but you're not welcoming in the Black woman who had a #1 country album on the Billboard charts. At what point do we have to say that race has to be the only answer? Too many times people try to make the argument like Black people are always making everything about race, but it's almost like you can't ignore it when you see clear distinctions. At first I was thinking about talking about the whole Ice Spice and Cleopatra beef, all that was going on, but honestly I feel like that happened so long ago, like Labor Day weekend long ago, that I can't even really discuss it. So instead I'm gonna talk about more positive things, still switching back over to rap. Doechii's album? Girl, I know it didn't, I believe it dropped August 30th, so technically not September news, but still worth a discussion because not enough people are talking about this album for my liking. And I hate when really good music comes out, not enough people know about it, speaking about it, and it's just, you can see it not reaching the amount of people that it deserves. It debuted at number 117 on the Billboard 200 and number 41 on the top R&B and hip hop albums. 117, this is what I'm talking about. This album is so freaking good. I feel like as I immediately listened to it, it felt so refreshing. Absolutely obsessed with not only the beats that were on it, the producers, top notch, but also the storytelling, so freaking good. Doechii is literally such a lyricist. It's actually funny, I was talking to someone about this album and I was like, she kind of reminds me of a little bit of like them old school rappers. There were a few songs that was reminding me a little bit of like New York rappers like Lil Kim, Foxy Brown. And I'm not gonna name names of who this person is, but they was like, she's better than them. I said, what? They were saying that she is a better artist, she is a better rapper than Lil Kim and Foxy Brown. And they were trying to compare her more towards like Lauryn Hill. Have my thoughts and opinions on that one, but I can kind of understand where they're coming from. I know that she said that she drew inspiration from Nicki Minaj for a lot of her songs, and I think that really showed, and I wrote down what song it was. I was like, oh, this sounds like Nicki, like old Nicki. Oh yeah, in Denial is a River and Catfish, there was definitely some elements when her voice was like getting really deep and growly, and it sounded kind of like an alter ego. It kind of reminded me of like Nicki's alter ego with Roman. So I can kind of see that. I also feel like a lot of her rapping reminds me a little bit of Doechii Cat. But I will say it's such... The reason why, sadly, this isn't going to do as well as somebody like Latto's album, and let's see where Latto's album... Latto reached number 15 on the Billboard's 200 top charts. For Latto to hit number 15, I really think that was a really good album. Like, it was such a good album. And for Doechii to hit 117, and I believe Doechii's album was significantly better than Latto's album, that is really tough to take in. I was telling my dad, like, the reason why I feel a certain type of way about somebody like Lauryn Hill, for example. I know there's so much controversy around her, and I feel like a big piece of that is she only had one album, right? Besides the Fuji stuff, yes, but she only had like one album that everyone just praises so hard. They think that she's the best of the best. I don't think Lauryn Hill would be able to stand her ground and stay relevant in today's type of rap, right? And today's rap where they call it rap, where it's basically like female rappers really talking about their bodies, talking about sex, talking about like how good they look, how good they are, that they are really that girl. Like, the current rap game for like women is like club songs, club music, and I feel like that's what Latto does a really good job. Latto is an amazing rapper, but she's also able to like play into club culture we want to hear her songs when we're going out, or I want to hear her music when I'm getting ready to go out, right? Like that's currently what everyone thinks women are listening to when it comes to this rap game. I also think there's that balance of like other women like Glorilla, who is able to do the same but still be gender neutral, kind of like Sexy Red, but not as much like Sexy Red, where like men also enjoy somebody like Glorilla's music. Doechii's album, a lot of men truly enjoy and have talked highly of this album, and they also feel like it's very gender neutral. Because let's just be real and say it, not everybody wants to listen to like Megan Thee Stallion or Sexy Red or Cardi B or whoever the case may be. Not every man wants to listen to them talk about like how fire their coochie is and how great they are in bed and how they gonna take your man. Like that's not really what dudes want to rap to. Whereas Glow, and people do love rapping to her music, and she might be talking about similar things, but probably because of the tone of her voice and just her demeanor and how she carries herself. And honestly, she doesn't talk about it on the same level. I feel like after she's been hanging around, but honestly, like not even, I feel like she doesn't talk about it on the same level as Megan. She's kind of like that in between, right? She reminds me a little bit of Lotto, but Lotto would definitely be talking about her coochie a lot. So I guess we can't make the comparison. What I'm trying to say is, in today's climate of like rappers, of female rap, right? Those Nicki Minaj's, those Lil Kims who really talk about sex and stuff like that, can artists like Lauryn Hill or Doechii survive? Because Doechii's album wasn't really about that. It just wasn't. It was about real life stuff, and just like, it was fun, and it was so much storytelling, and it was really cool how she was doing the storytelling, where you would think this song's like an interlude, but it's like just the intro of the song, like a conversation that was happening. But she's talking about like real stuff, you know? Even like down to, oh, do you have a problem with like partying and drinking and drugs? And it's like, no, I just like to smoke weed. Like, you know, conversations like that, that not everybody's gonna be listening to while they're getting ready to do their makeup and hair to go hit the club. Like, that just might not be what's charting right now. And also, we're not gonna be able to like play your music in the club. But that's so annoying, because that's just not what art is. And I even think this kind of ties back into the whole Kendrick stuff with Drake. And honestly, what I feel like really pushed him to make a song like They Not Like Us, right? Because everyone always says like Kendrick makes great music, but Kendrick, half his songs are really like think pieces. They're really meaningful, they're really sentimental, they really are telling a story, and it kind of reminds me of like old school J. Cole. You know what I'm talking about? Like music that you might be listening to in your car, or like you might be doing stuff around the house and you're playing that music in the background, or you really want to listen to something that has like substance. That's like Kendrick, right? But he can also do both. He knows how to like make a club anthem, he knows how to make a song like that, but he's purposely choosing to make art, to create art that says something more than a hook that's going to keep being played in the club. Hopefully you're following. And I think Doechii is leaning more towards Kendrick in that category. The sad part is, when you have an artist like that, how can they survive in today's climate? Because think about it, like her song Persuasive was so good, and what honestly some people say put her on the map, right? But that was also a club hit. That's something we can dance to in the club. It's so upsetting. It's really hard to like kind of grasp, because when you have these really great artists, I also think that's what pushes them to not want to keep going and not to make music that they probably enjoy, and just try to make music that will like hit those charts and they'll get club play, radio play, right? It almost reminds me of like Tyler, the Creator. He's one of those rappers, in my opinion, that some people even question, is he a rapper? That's a different conversation. But a lot of his music you're not hearing in the club. I don't think you're hearing any of his music in the club, but that's not what the music is, right? It's similar to Kendrick, different beats, different approaches, different subject matters. With that being said, it's the music that you are going to listen to on a walk around the park, or doing some errands, or riding around in your car and you just want to listen to some chill, cool music with substance. Like, that's who you're listening to. But he has been able to somehow, and maybe that's just the cult following that he's been able to create and build, foster, where anything that he drops is gonna chart, you know, it's gonna do well, it's gonna be recognized. But it's kind of like in today's age, and maybe men just have an easier job with this, because maybe most women want to like put on some clubbing music, and we want to shake our booties, and we want to dance, and we want to do all this different stuff, and I think that's beautiful and amazing. But I'm wondering, like, are women listening to music, and specifically rap music, that is similar to how like Kendrick, Tyler, old school J. Cole, like, are women like choosing to listen to that from a female's voice? Or do they only want to hear a certain type of song from women rappers, like from female rappers? I think that's the question, right? We almost kind of categorize and put women in that genre too. Not only do, as a woman, you have to be, as a female rapper, you gotta have a certain sound, you gotta have a certain swag, you gotta make me feel a certain way. And I love it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with like talking about your coochie, talking about how good you are at sex, talking about like how bad you are that chick. I think it's very empowering, and I think that is empowering. But I also think we should welcome other categories or other sounds of rap music. And too often it goes ignored. And that's how artists can like lose motivation. I can't believe she hit 117. That's like so disappointing, because that was such a good album. Such a good album. 117? Top 50 bare minimum. Like, that's so crazy. But anyway, that's kind of my take on it. I kind of want to do a full review. Let me know if you're interested in that. I think that's such a good album. I want to encourage everyone to go listen to it. Maybe I will like go into it a little bit deeper, do a proper review. Anyway, this is like, my back is starting to hurt. I'm about to get up off this floor, go on with my life. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I would love to know your opinions, if you agree with me on some of this stuff, if you don't agree with me on some of this stuff. I really do enjoy these sit down videos where I'm just chatting with y'all, yapping away. It's like Yapville. I'm trying to get better at being able to just like discuss topics like this alone, like no one else like joining in on the conversation, kind of like a podcast style. Because I think eventually I would like to have my own podcast, but it's so hard to like talk about topics in one setting and articulate your true thoughts and opinions on some of the subject matters. And it's just like a conversation with yourself. It's just a long 30-minute monologue. That's essentially what it is. That's probably why most people start podcasts with other people. So you can like bounce off of each other, have a proper conversation. But anyway, that's it, you guys. I'm gonna keep posting. I'm gonna be filming on my phone. Hopefully you guys were able to hear me well and the quality wasn't too unsettling. And yeah, can't wait to see you guys next time.